Just want to make a quick comment on this drug situation with Donald Trump. Now, to be honest, I think it's a good thing. What he's doing is a good thing. I really commend Donald Trump for at least making an effort, okay, if he's sincere, and I believe that he is sincere. If he don't have to deal or face any type of struggle with Congress or even with the Trump haters. But I commend him for this, okay? First of all, because he's doing something that no one has really stepped up to the plate to try to do, okay? Now, we in the black community know that much of what you see in the black community, just dealing with the black community, drug infestation in the black community, um, was put there by design. Okay, we all know it was put there by design. But at the same time, just because guns and drugs were placed in our communities, don't mean that we have to pick it up and sell it to each other. Now, I made a video in the past and I gave reference to uh, ant traps and mice traps, and how if you watch, sit back and observe an ant trap, and how you just put the bait down there and how the ants would come and they would take the poison in among themselves and end up destroying their whole colony. Well, that's the same thing that's happened in the black community. Now, I hear some black people that say, well, now that it's affecting the white communities, now they want to do something about it. But it has always affected the white community. It was just kept in the dark. We just didn't hear much about it. We heard about the black communities, and they showed and exploited us on television and to the world. So we were made to look like the drug abusers, the drug dealers. But yet at the same time, the disease was hidden in the white communities. So for you people that say that, well, now that it affects the white community, they want to do something about it. Well, my response to that would be Donald Trump wasn't president at that time. Okay, because if we look back just with George Bush, Ronald Reagan, um, Jimmy Carter, okay, Barack Obama, all the presidents before Trump hadn't really did much to help the drug epidemic. So now Trump stands up to fight against it, okay? And he remarked on this, combating drug demand and the opioids crisis. Now, I'm going to read a portion of this, and I'm going to place the ad on the bottom, and you guys can read it for yourself. But my opinion may sound hard to some or many, but it's the truth. It's the hard, factual truth. My thoughts on this is, no one told you to put that needle to your arm. No one told you to put those drugs in your mouth or your nose, or however you decide to take these drugs inside yourself. You did it to yourself. There's no one to blame but you. Because I'm sure that there were family members and friends, and even on television, there was always a cry and a message that went out and say, come off the drugs, leave the drugs alone. But you felt that you were grown enough to do that. You felt that you could handle it. I had even heard people back in the 70s and in the 80s and in the 90s that spoke of or commented on people that overdosed. And their response was, well, they were weak. They couldn't handle it. I could handle it. I'm strong enough to handle it. So now you're in a situation where you're expecting people to come to your rescue and help you or your loved one, but at the same time, you sold it to them. You assisted them. You got high with them. So now you expect everyone else to come running and put up our tax dollars to help you to heal from something that you had control of yourself. You did it to yourself. See, so I have a problem with that. I have a problem with our tax dollars going towards these people that care nothing about themselves when they decide to take those drugs into their bodies. See, they were selfish. They thought about no one but themselves. I'm reminded of a movie that Tupac played in, Gang Related. And it was about him and his friend that decided to one day come off of drugs. And they were going back and forth to rehab, and they were given the runarounds, and they had to wait like everyone else. And they became upset. Now that I'm ready to, to get right, nobody wants to help me. The help is not out there. And there was a black female in that movie that said, so you mean to tell me all this time you were out there taking these drugs inside yourself, and I'm paraphrasing it. Now that you feel that you're ready to drop these drugs, now everybody's supposed to come running to your aid, right? So, and you guys can go back and watch that movie. It's a good movie, drug related. Okay, it had Tupac in it. So that's how I feel about it. My thing is like, listen, if you felt you were grown enough to take those drugs inside yourself, you need to be grown enough to get yourself off those drugs. It's just like people that smoke cigarettes. There's all types of messages that's out there, man, where quit smoking, and even got to the point where they don't allow smoking in certain areas. You have to go outside, even in the wintertime, to smoke. But yeah, you feel you just got to have that cigarette, right? So, but yet at the same time, it's like when cancer strikes or when the diseases from those cigarettes strike, you expect the taxpayers to pay your way. You spent all of that money instead of investing that money, putting that money in the bank until you need it medically. You wasted your dollars on cigarettes, on alcohol, on drugs. And now that you have a habit, and now that you're dying or your loved ones and friends are dying from overdoses, now you expect everyone else to come and help you out. Now, I got a problem with that. I just believe that, listen, you were grown enough when people were trying to tell you to come off of drugs and leave those drugs alone. You cursed them out. You talked about, you can't tell me what to do. This is my body. I do what I want with my body. So now your body is dying and you're feeling the pangs of death. And you expect people to come to your aid, spend their hard-earned dollars on you to get right, knowing that one day you're going to end up going back into that same condition. You're going to start feeling sorry for yourself. You're going to become depressed, and you're going to feel the only way out is to fall into a pity party with yourself, looking for someone to sympathize with you. And then you're going to go back into that same condition. In other words, money is wasted. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of money helping people that really don't want to help themselves. You did it to yourself. So if you can do that to yourself, if you were grown enough to do that to yourself, be grown enough to get yourself off of that mess. Now I'm going to read a little bit of what Trump says, okay? And again, like I said, I commend Trump for his efforts, and anyone else that have that compassion in their heart to help people. But when are people going to start trying to help themselves? When are you going to make up in your mind to put that down, or not even pick it up in the first place? I had just got done doing a video of these young teenagers that died in a car accident. The car flipped upside down. The wheel is hanging outside of the church window because they decided to go out, and I guess their way of having a good time was getting drunk and high. So they lost their lives. But yet, people are supposed to feel sorry for them. People are supposed to raise money and support a Patreon page to bury these people that lived a reckless lifestyle. See, so I'm just going to read a portion of what Trump said, and you guys can check out the article and feedback. Tell me what you think. Now, some people may say, well, what if it was your family member? What if it was your sons? Or if you had a daughter, if I had a daughter, what if it was your daughters? I'd say the same thing. Because of my moral values, our principles, the way I bring my sons up. And I told them at a very young age, if you go out there and you make foolish choices and decisions, something that's completely, totally different than how you were raised or what you were taught, that's on you. I'm there for you if you need me. I would even lose my life for you. But if you go out there doing something stupid that you have no business doing, you on your own. It would be unfortunate. I would hate for that to happen, but you brought it on yourself. You can't blame nobody but yourself. And to talk to some of these people that's in recovery, they all have that same brainwashed mentality that if I just smell it, if I take another puff, if I taste it, I can go right back into that addiction. Telling me I can't understand addiction if you've never been there. Well, I was wise enough not to pick it up in the first place. Why can't you be wise enough or strong enough to not pick it up yourself? And especially these people that's always talking about weed and legalized marijuana, and weed don't hurt nobody and it's natural, it's from the earth. But weed is a gateway to everything else. It's a gateway to everything else. Listen, I was young too. When I came up, especially when I went away in the military, right? I made choices for myself. If I drank, if I smoked weed, or if I smoked hash, that was on me, right? But I have always been the kind of person that I like to be fully aware of what's going on around me. I like that natural type of high. I like to be alert at all times, especially living in the world that we're living in today. I like to be aware and alert. See, why would I mess my mind up knowing that the enemy is always lurking about, and the enemy is not always the white man? It's people within our own communities that we have to watch our backs. So why would I distort my mentality, my mind, knowing that it's going to slow down my thinking and make me less aware of what's going on around me? So I don't feel sorry for people that that overdose or that have an addiction. I don't feel sorry for them because you picked it up yourself. And I'm sure that somebody's going to hear this message and going to tell me how I don't understand when you have free will to not pick it up in the first place. It's like if the white man laid a trunk of or a box of guns in the neighborhood, you're going to go pick it up, take it back into your own community, and kill your own people. Whose fault is that? No one told you to pick that up in the first place. There's nothing in the world that would make me go out there and pick up poison, and especially if I know that I don't have no boats, no planes to bring that mess over here. I'm going to be wise enough to know that that's a trap set for me and for my brothers and sisters. But yet, I'm going to allow myself to be so weak to the point where I would go out there knowing that's going to kill somebody's family, that's going to break up somebody's family, somebody's home. It's going to cause the death of someone that I claim that I love so much, that I claim that Black Lives Matter, but yet I'm going to take it in my own communities, knowing that it was set there as a trap. And this is just not talking about black people. This is white people as well, because there's many families that's affected by that. But at the end of the day, it's up to you, because regardless of how much money is spent on recovery and trying to help you, you still have the option and choice to go back out and do the same thing again, because you just got to have that taste. So I don't blame nobody but yourself. And I'm against putting up all of that taxpayer dollar to help somebody who purposely and willfully destroyed their own selves. So I don't feel sorry for them. I don't have sympathy for them. But I'm going to read a portion of this. And I didn't mean to get onto this rant. My motive and intention when I first started to make this video was be on for about maybe 5 minutes. And already it's 16 minutes and 24 seconds into the video. But I'm just going to read a portion of it, and then I'm going to put the link on the bottom, and you guys can read it for yourself. And if you get that temptation that you want to go out and spend your money on drugs and alcohol and tobacco, well, you know what? There's a PayPal button right on the bottom, a PayPal link. Just go to that link and donate that money to this channel. If you don't have anything better else to do with your money, donate it to this channel. That will help you to not go out there and buy that poison. And then you're going to come expecting taxpayers to help you out. See? So anyway, enough of my soapbox. It says, most importantly, we acknowledge the families present who have lost a cherished loved one. In other words, a choice that they made for themselves. As you all know from personal experience, families, communities, and citizens across our country are currently dealing with the worst drug crisis in American history. And even if you really think about it, world history. This is all throughout the world. The fact is, this is a worldwide problem. This crisis of drug use, addiction, and overdose death in many years, it's just been so long in the making. Addressing it will require all of our effort, and it will require us to confront the crisis in all of its very real complexity. In other words, keep them folk off them drugs. Listen, the government need to make, instead of focusing on guns from illegal, legal guns, instead of focusing so much attention and energy on legal guns, you need to be focusing on locking these folk up with illegal guns and drugs, and not making that mess legal. How you gonna make that mess legal and then turn around and say, well, we need to help you, knowing that you are the ones that helped them to be in the condition that they're in the first place? It's like you give them the poison and then you got to play the savior. I gave it to you, so now I got to save your life because I gave you poison and you decided to pick it up for yourself. So now I have to ask the taxpayer for more money to help you after I helped you to destroy yourself, although you made the conscious choice and decision to pick that up. But anyway, more people are dying from drug overdose today than from gun homicides and motor vehicles combined. Think of it. Motor vehicle crashes, gun homicides, more people by far from drug overdose. That's because of the fact you put that mess in the community. So now you got one man, Donald Trump, that's trying to clean up what was messed up in the past. And again, like I said, you can't just say now that it's in the white community, they decide they want to do something about it. And of course, there's going to be blacks that's going to think that this is for white people and not them. When they go for help, they may not get the same kind of help that white people may get. Is that true? That's remained to be seen. And then it says, these overdoses are driven by a massive increase in addiction to prescription painkillers, heroin, and other opioids. Now, heroin has always been here, especially back in the 60s and the 70s. Last year, almost 1 million Americans used heroin, and more than 11 million abused prescription opioids. The United States is by far the largest consumer of these drugs, using more opioid pills per person than any other country by far in the world. Now, I want to stop there for a second. And then I'm going to put this link on the bottom. It's easy to talk about the drug crisis here in America, but consider what the government is doing through the school system, getting these kids on drugs at a very young age. When I was growing up, children were allowed to be children. We played. Some of us had more energy than others. You know, there's some of us that didn't listen to the teacher. We couldn't keep still in our seat. Our attention span was very short. And that's the case with all children. But then a time came when the schools was told that, listen, all you have to do is diagnose a lot of these students, these young kids, with attention deficit disorder. Help us to sell our drugs to these children. And the school districts were paid money for every child that was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. So even in the schools were also contributing. It's a contributing factor to a lot of these young people and even now older people that have drug issues, because it started from elementary school level. The teachers did not want to deal with these children. They wanted young children to come in and just sit and be quiet and listen and go home. They wanted an easy day. So any child, especially a black child, that was hyperactive, just being a child, they had to start running tests on this child. And 9 times out of 10, that child was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, hyper attention deficit, whatever they call it. And they were medicated. Now, I remember South Park did an episode on that where Kenny was given some type of drug and he was like a zombie basically, right? He was just too quiet, right? But that's what happened in the school district. So they also are a contributing factor whenever they start diagnosing your child that's not even sick. And you know what? The person that created or invented attention deficit disorder, before he died, had even confessed that it's not real. It was designed to help the drug manufacturers. It was designed to help the drug manufacturers. Everybody's brainwashed into believing that legal guns are the problem of a lot of lives being lost. But they're not dealing with the illegal guns, nor are they dealing with the legal drugs that are put in the school districts at an elementary school level. Instead of teaching these kids They're putting these kids on drugs. Whenever you go to the doctor, they don't even really diagnose you anymore. They really don't even uh, uh, investigate or um, do a checkup, do a thorough checkup on you. They're quick to give you drugs. So this is all by design. And I'm hoping that Donald Trump is sincere in wanting to at least attempt to clean up the mess that was made back in the 60s and maybe even before then. But this is all by design. I'm going to read this last bit. Opioid overdose deaths have quadrupled since 1999 and now account for the majority of fatal drug overdoses. Who would have thought? They knew what was going on. They knew what they were doing. Now, the last paragraph I'm going to read, and then I'm going to put the rest on the bottom. No part of our society, not young or old, rich or poor, urban or rural, has been spared this plague of drug addiction and this horrible, horrible situation that's taking place with opioids. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to put the rest on the bottom. But like I said, this is by design. No one tells you, and this is even for the people that's thinking about trying it. Not allowing your friends nor anyone else to talk you in to feeding your body with that poison. I'm 56 years of age, and I've always made a conscious choice of what I take inside my body, especially if I'm seeing the effect that it have on other people. I never put my mind to even imagine thinking that that's just them, they're weak, they can't handle it. I'm stronger than they are, and I can handle what they can't handle. So I'm gonna start shooting up my veins. I'm gonna start snorting, mess up my nose. I'm gonna start putting stuff in a weed pipe or cigarette and smoke it up because I want to get as high as I can get. This doesn't make sense to me. Does not make sense to me at all. That's a road to disaster. Nothing good could ever come from that. And we see the results even today. But it's a choice that people make. If you're strong enough to pick up that weed or that cigarette or that alcohol or any type of drug, if you're strong enough to pick that up and you feel you've grown enough, and even with the young people out there that's in early ages, man, that allow your friends, man. I remember having friends, man, and they like, yo, nah, I'm not good with that. No, I'm good. I'm good. It's okay if they call you a nerd or what's some terms they used to call you, you know? But then there's names that they like to call you to try to make you feel bad so you'll try it, you know? So no one has ever peer pressured me to do what I didn't want to do. It's about making up your own mind. And to any young person out there that's listening right now, listen, there's no future in that. I don't care what you see your friends do. I don't care what your friends say. I don't care how good they claim and make them feel because you see the results of it. If it made them feel so good, and it may be even a temporary high, they may feel good just a little bit. But then at the end of that road, as we read in this article and as we see in everyday life, it's death. So these are choices that people make for themselves. I don't feel sorry for them at all. Just like you picked it up, you can put it down and don't pick it up again. So check out this article I put on the bottom. Feedback, tell me what you think. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people that's not going to like what I had to say, right? Because I have no compassion for anybody that pick up that poison. It's like you playing Russian roulette. It's like you taking a revolver, man. You're putting one round in that chamber and you spinning it. And just putting it to your head and bam, click, not knowing when that round is going to come through that chamber. That's what happens when you're playing with drugs, man. When you decide to pick up them drugs, I don't care if it's weed or what have you, or cigarettes, when you decide to pick that poison up, man, and put it up to your mouth, or shoot it up into your arm, or snort it up in your nose, then you're on the road to death. You can't love yourself, man, by taking that poison inside yourself like that. And again, I don't feel sorry for you. So feedback, tell me what you think, subscribe, and listen. If this message is helpful to you or anybody in your family, right? Even if it cuts you, just say ow and move on. Just try to do better with yourself. But if it helps you in any kind of way, feel free to click on that PayPal link and donate to this channel. Show how much this message means to you by what you donate. Until next time, I'm fearless.